We began a small Causerie, a special mini Causerie series this week, introducing people who've joined the department this month, as a matter of fact, formally joined the department this month. Yesterday, we listened to Professors Pramod Harle and Dr. Muthukumar. Today, we'll be listening to Professors Vinay BS and Micah Thambi. Vinay comes to the English department after having been a student of St. Joseph's. He did a BSc with us and then went on to do a mass comm degree at the Bangalore University, and joins us in our programs that involve communicative English and journalism. We look forward to his services in the department. Professor Vinay, I'm curious about two things to start with.
Yes, sir.
One, the obvious question, you jettisoned your BSc, you finished your BSc and then jettisoned the sciences, so to speak, and moved over to what is essentially a professional course. I'm curious about the reasons and motivation for that. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Actually, that's what the talk is about. I basically, in a very short sentence, I can say, I thought of applying science to the society, and I felt journalism was the best way to know about what humanities and how society, the interactions in society work. And that's the reason I came to journalism.
Okay, so we won't try to extend that sneak preview of what your talk is going to be, right? But my second question will be about another transition that you doubtless experienced. What was it like going from an autonomous college like Joseph's to the Bangalore University system? Was there a difference you noticed? What sort of differences, if there were
a lot of differences, and yeah, Bangalore University, someone can speak to, if you speak to someone from Bangalore University or a government college like Bangalore University, you can get to know more about it, but like anyone can tell it. And what I saw, that was I enjoyed the part that being there, because it's kind of a heritage building. That part I enjoyed. If you ask me about the academics, we did our own work, and not fairly well academic support, but not comparable to autonomous college like Joseph's. And we got some free time to think about things that mattered.
Okay, fair enough. I guess every experience is a package deal and will have good and not so good parts, right? Great. I think we'll go without any further ado to listening to what you have to say. Over to you, Professor Vinay.
Yes, I'll just share my screen. Is the screen visible? Okay. Yes. So yeah, the name of my talk is From Science to Arts. So as you can see, so first of all, I'm glad to be a part of this department. Hi everyone, And this department that's so diverse, and most of the time I feel like sitting half an hour with each of you to know you all better. And yes, I was a science student from the same college, Joseph's, and very much passionate about science, not just the subject, but the methodology. That is to collect proofs, to mercilessly rectify its mistakes over time, not dwelling much into science. I'll go forward. I greatly feel that this could happen because I used to watch discuss more than this. I strongly believe that cartoons played an important role in shaping minds. Unlike today's average cartoons that kind of perpetuates physical fights and winning mentality, the competitive mentality, that's there today. And I never used to get good marks, not much of a competitive mind, and I'm thankful for it. So coming to cartoons, we had Courage the Cowardly Dog. As you can see here in pink, we had Courage the Cowardly Dog, where the hero is a dog that gathers courage and fights fear. We had Scooby-Doo, we had Flintstones, Tintin, we had cartoons for everything, like Spirit of Adventure, Inquiry, Imagination. We had Power Rangers. We had for science we had Phineas and Ferb and Dexter's Laboratory for science. So those things really had an impact. The writing or the show of the cartoon. So later we had Enid Blyton's Noddy, and I cannot forget Oswald because of its diverse characters. Like there's a flower that speaks, there's a butterfly, there's an so many diverse characters, and love between these diverse characters is something that really attracts. And of course, I cannot forget Mad. I hope those who were in that era, those who were watching cartoon in that era, will know these things. So all these led me to find science interesting. It became a passion as soon as I got to know that time can run slow if you travel really fast. That is Einstein's theory of relativity. If you, I'm sure you might have heard of twin paradox and etc. And much more fascination was in store when I found out that when you bang yourself on a wall for 1,000 times and nothing happens, but when you reach 1,001 time, you may end up on the other side of the wall. But humans can't do it; they would die within 10. But this happens in quantum world. Such things thrilled me to understand science, to have a searching mind, and the same searching mind I think led me to take arts. So once when a school teacher like helped me to understand society, there was a discussion on Independence Day. So in the middle of some conversation that I differed with, I said, "Sir, we are an independent country." No, sir, we are independent, right, sir? I asked, and he replied, "Really? Are your parents independent to put you to presidency school?" He asked me, and the presidency school was a bit of costly school just next to mine. And until then, I knew concepts like the Prime Minister of India, the President, only as quiz answers, but never really gave a thought about those, whether the Prime Minister or Chief Minister were eternal positions or not. I knew stories of kings and dynasties from a history textbook, but it didn't occur to me that there were politics of transition from feudal ages to the modern world. Back in school, the only scientist who got projected was Abdul Kalam. Like there's no Einstein and Curie. And here started my turn towards society, that is to say arts. um, Somewhere between PUC and BSc, I got to know that this system is a so-called democracy. It's called capitalism, in which inequality is inherent. So back then I knew Bhagat Singh as a man with a hat, who just gave life for freedom in pure emotion. But in that period, I got introduced to a man of reason. So this is a small quote from his writing. So any man who stands for progress has to criticize disbelief and challenge every item of the old faith. Item by item, he has to reason out every nook and corner of the prevailing faith. After considerable reasoning, one is led to believe in any theory or philosophy. His faith is welcomed. His reasoning can be mistaken, wrong, misled, and sometimes fallacious. But he is liable to correction reasoning, because reason is the guiding star of his life. But mere faith and blind faith is dangerous. It dulls the brain and makes a man reactionary. A man who claims to be a realist has to challenge the whole of the ancient faith. If it does not stand the onslaught of reason, it crumbles down. Then the first thing for him is to shatter down the whole and clear space for the erection of a new philosophy. And I read such texts, and this was told by Bhagat Singh, but we don't see this being told in schools. In schools, we had prayers and we used to tell Sanskrit slokas. And imagine a young man with hot blood reading this. Now, it's a different thing that I have a warm blood right now. Back then, it was different. And in science, we were always having laws that were eternal with very few exceptions. But when it came to society, it was really dynamic. I started understanding. I read an essay by Einstein, but it was really tough for me to understand. And it was complex, the language or the concepts. But then I was a fan of Einstein, and Einstein wrote it. I was like, I have to understand it. How if I don't understand it? So, one small part of it, I'm sorry, I'm using so many quotes. So, yes, so that is, I have now reached a point, I'm reading it. I have now reached a point where I may indicate briefly what to me constitutes the essence of the crisis of our time. It concerns the relationship of the individual to the society. The individual has become more conscious than ever of his dependence upon society, but he does not experience this dependence as a positive asset, as an organic tie, as a protective force, but rather as a threat to his natural rights or even to his economic existence. Moreover, his position in society is such that the egoistical drives of his makeup are constantly being accentuated, while his social drives, which are by nature weaker, progressively deteriorate. All human beings, whatever their position in society, are suffering from this process of deterioration, unknowingly prisoners of their own egoism. They feel insecure, lonely, deprived of the naive, simple, and unsophisticated enjoyment of life. Man can find meaning in life, short and perilous as it is, only through devoting himself to society. And one fine day I could make sense of this. Yeah. So after this part, I thought of my career, and I don't know what I would do with science. So then I got to know of Marx, and he wrote an essay when he was 18 years old, and in which he says it's a privilege of man over the rest of creation to take up profession of one's choice. One better not leave out life's important affairs like career to mere chance. So I thought of not leaving things to chance. What really got me was this part, and it was a time when my family, when my like those who I know used to tell me, first think of yourself and later you can think of your fellow men. And so at that point I could get to this essay. So yeah, this part. But the chief guide which must direct us in the choice of a profession is the welfare of mankind and our own perfection. It should not be thought that these two interests could be in conflict, that one would have to destroy the other. On the contrary, man's nature is so constituted that he can attain his own perfection by working for the perfection for the good of his fellow men. So I reasoned out, what if I don't make breakthrough in physics? Someone else will someday. And if not Einstein, someone would have come up with relativity. If not Newton, someone would have come up with the Newtonian laws. So this convinced me. And of course, in today's world, most of the scientific breakthroughs that happen will slide into the hands of big tech and industrialists. I thought, what's the point of going ahead with science, at least academically? So that's when I chose arts by telling myself, matter will exist, but people are dying. So that's why I chose arts. And the best way to do arts, I felt, was journalism, because you can go for any subject when it comes to journalism. I can go for science, economic, business. It allows you everywhere. And it's important to be calm, I felt. In thinking of the system that's not calm today, I'm trying to be calm right now. Nothing is as calm as a simple fact. So suppose when there's a bombing, uh, ED News very calmly states the fact that there was a bombing yesterday. But the other channels you see today will literally show you a bomb that if it was a small bomb, they'll show you a visual of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is the thing that's in journalism today. So speaking of journalism, someone told, I think, Mark Twain, once you know the truth, you can distort it as you please. But today, you don't have to know truth to distort facts. You just make sure that there are provable falsehoods. And there's no calm today. Coming to the social media, internet, all, all these, the negative aspect, there are polarizing trends that's in society today, and that existed since immemorial. These polarizing trends are being exasperated by social media. The profits are quadrupled. There's exploitation too, in the name of caste, religion, color, and whatnot. And social media, instead of questioning our beliefs, it strengthens it. It connects us to it connects us to like-minded. Suddenly you are in a kind of huge well of opinions that vary a little. Polarization is like ideas in bubbles with intersection points resulting in clashes like this. And those clashes can result in cancellations, bullying, and mostly there are volatile opinions over the internet we see. Uh, I really don't know the solution to this, and I'm sure that the way USSR did or China did, it's not possible, and it's I really don't know the way, but it is something radical. I know that, but before we get a clue of a possible solution, we need to have an open mind, a calm mind at least. So where has the open mindedness gone today? I really don't know. And media space has a trend like like I told you about the Oswald TV show, and today's media space is like an Oswald TV show filled with characters that are only octopuses of blue color. But um, yeah, this is the condition, and the white thing is the sacred thread. So right now I'm trying to be calm and trying to learn more, and that's all about science to arts. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Professor Vinay, for that very engaging account of moving from science to arts. One of the things you've told us is that you haven't really moved. You're trying to hold both perspectives together
Yes, yes.
in order to find a set of solutions to emergent problems. Right?
Yes.
That's an interesting way of looking at what people generally characterize as a divide. Right? I suppose you would say that you're more of a bridge builder than one who looks at a divide and bemoans the divide. Right? Welcome to our department. This is an opportunity to formally welcome you to the department.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
To a department that tries its best to build what we call an information culture. Right? As you pointed out quite rightly, when the mediascape is dominated by attempts at producing a kind of monoculture, right? Where everyone has the same opinions, and having contrary opinions is itself dangerous, right? We are also dealing with a situation where you know that the next target or the simultaneous target is academic spaces, right?
Yes.
All academic spaces that promote diversity, that talk about diversity, that talk about questioning received opinions or truth, right? Immediately become suspicious, right? So that's why you have the politically vibrant campus like JNU being described as a campus full of
Yes.
anti-nationals
Anti-nationals.
getting fat on taxpayers' money, right? Now, how would you address, very strong propaganda machinery, right, that is able to crank out such large-scale images, such effective imaging, right, of the culture of dissent, right? Is there the possibility of resistance? Do you see any possibility of resistance? Edward Said very eloquently once said, "The job of the intellectual is to speak the truth to power," right? But is there any point in speaking the truth to power when that power has the capacity to selectively pick up what you're saying and turn it into something else? What are your thoughts on these issues in our time?
Coming to resistance, coming to dissent, dissent has been the last resort of the society when things really go out of control, and that will be reached. That will be reached. But what after that is the real question. We've had Arab Spring. We had it in 2011. We had great dissents. Like there was a whole wave of reformations that people were trying to do. Started in Tunisia, Egypt, and many other places. But what now? We see that it was a temporary one, though it was a really big dissent. But what did it result in? So before the dissent, we need to chalk out what after this, and the after this should not be like what we've seen in the previous century. That is whatever we call as socialism, that holds a single person in account for the whole setup. That cannot be an answer. But what next? So such questions need real discussions. It needs discussions from people of all cultures, all places. But for this discussion to happen, to arrive at somewhere, we need to have an open mind, and this media is trying to close it. So I think opening that space is really essential for dissent to really be fruitful, and that's what I feel.
Okay, that's a good point. You're saying that an open mind is the place from where answers to questions such as what after dissent will come from.
Yes.
But what about our situation today across the world, where you're dealing with establishments that have understood this political game, right, and so are trying to cut off access to the means by which you can arrive at an open mind, right? The two ways in which that can happen are through academic engagements and through an active media space, right? So both these things are being pincered into some kind of compliance in our times, right? So when you have an intelligent political order,
you, sir.
when we have an intelligent political order, right?
Yes.
That seeks to limit what can be done in an academic space, right? That will immediately sort of clamp down. And for instance, if you look at what current policies are heading towards, right? They are heading towards promoting greater uniformity, greater control, less autonomy, right? Shrinking of the space for academic discussion, right? what sort of resistance do you think is possible in such a scenario?
Social media space, though it's a private space, it's a space that's heavily privately controlled. Some spaces are some, as I told, some bubbles can be created,
Okay.
but these bubbles, I don't know the extent to which this can lead to. Some people are trying some experiments, like Faye D'Souza just came out of the previous channel she was in, and she's trying to make some kind of debates, some kind of discussions. But when you see some of live sessions of such people, it receives very less audience. And as we've seen this movie, The Social Dilemma. So it really explains the social media and the internet ecosystem that exists. So even today, we have the to control the social media space. You don't have to be a hacker. Government parties, the political parties, each of the party has their own huge huge amount of people working for them to create fake trends, to create a parallel discussion. So that's really, they spend crores together on it. And common man, like common academics like us, if we want to try to open it up, we can try to some level, but can we try to their level spending crores? We really cannot. And I think in this aspect we need public support. And public, how does public support today's publics? If we see the internet usage and penetration of our ideas to them, the academic ideas to them, I really think we need a discussion on this particular thing. And I really don't know exact solution, but fairly we can try to draw some lines, but I don't know where it will connect. I really don't know, and I'm trying to learn right now.
Okay. Fair enough. It's a thing in process. I don't think any of us can claim to know an exact mode of resistance that's possible, apart from the urge to resist itself. Right? There's a question from the audience. Professor Amanda asks, what do you think is the future of journalistic open-mindedness or neutrality in today's polarized world?
Okay. I came to the space of teaching because to make this possible, to make inclusiveness as a part, like students are the journalists of the future, journalism students, and these people really should take things forward. And that's one way. The other way is to create a kind of say an NGO can do it. But here we see cracking down of NGOs also, really. And the other thing is the campus activism that we see, like JNU or somewhere. This kind of activism should happen in other campuses, and it may not be radical. It need not necessarily be radical as what radical is defined today, but these I'll give you an example. In Tripura, I think 1 to 2 years back, a statue fell. A statue of a great political leader fell. The result of that is something else. But we saw after this incident, we saw trends on the internet that people were trying to search about that political leader. It was Lenin. And incidents like this attract people's attention. But all these are temporary. We don't see it today. So these temporary waves, we can try to capture on these temporary waves that come. Temporary wave that came during Kanhaiya Kumar's sedition case, or a wave that recently came, and like it's down already. When the wave is at its highest peak, we can try to tell people about the realities. But really, journalistic space in its current state, it cannot do anything. It cannot do anything.
Okay, right. Thank you for those responses, Professor Vinay. And once again, welcome to the department.
Thank
We
you,
look
sir.
forward to more such conversations with you, right? And to seeding such ideas in various academic spaces, right? Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We'll go on to the second part of our program. Our second presenter today is Professor Micah Thambi. Welcome, Micah. Micah comes to our department after having submitted a PhD at the Central University of Kerala, a PhD titled Myth, Fiction and Nationalism, a study of select post-millennial Indian English popular narratives. She has an MA in English from Calicut University and a wide-ranging set of academic interests and research interests. One of the interesting things she has done is complete a study sponsored by the National Film Archive of India on the presence of the Christian religious film in Malayalam cinema. Right? It's a very interesting niche of cinema to have explored. Welcome to this discussion, Professor Micah. Tell us a little bit about the project you took up with the NFAI.
Yeah, so it started once I watched a very recent Malayalam movie called Imayo by Lijojus Palisheri. So that was in 2018, if I'm not wrong. So once I watched it, before there was this movie by the same director called Amin. So I was watching all this movie, then it came to my mind there is this change was happening in Malayalam cinema. At the same time, it was showing this Christian elements in the Malayalam cinema in a different way. Which was different from the 2000 movies which was there in 2000s. So the movies which was there in the 2000s were very hero prominent, very masculine hero comes and very upper class caste Christian family comes and just do the justice part. So this movies got this movies which started coming by 2007, 2016, 17, 18 like that. These movies actually went to more of the like micro level lives of people and the church and the life which is surrounded by that small stories, narratives and all. So I was not sure if anything has happened. So accidentally this fellowship was called and I applied and I got it. So in the research program, in the research which I have done is that trace a kind of historical kind of I don't know if I can call trajectory kind of historiography of Malayalam Christian cinema, because in Kerala we have I am also from Kerala, so we have this very rich, very varied, diverse sections in the Christianity itself, where it has huge importance and it decides the power balance of the society itself. So I was just looking back and I could find from 1950s itself this movies were there. And so I was just tracing from 1950s to 2018, so I could manage to collect almost 80-90 movies where I could I was watching it and I was trying to study the change which had happened in terms of the life of the people, how they are portrayed in the church, the power balance and the different themes which actually these movies coming. So according to all every period, whatever political changes or economic, social changes that happened, the movies actually reflected it. So like in every 10 years, the change you can actually see once you go through this 10-year batch of movies. So yeah. So yeah, hopefully I will be working more on that. Yeah, let's see.
Okay, okay. That's quite fascinating, and I think it calls for a separate presentation maybe at some point. I'm also very curious about a specific part of your academic experience, which is the place where you did your PhD. At one point, there were only 2 or 3 central universities in India, and then government largesse distributed many central universities by a special act of parliament in several states across India. So what is the place of the central university in Kerala's academic culture? Does it have a unique identity? Or does it behave like a spaceship that has landed, in an unfamiliar terrain?
Yeah. So once when I was joining there, I was least aware about the space, but there was this common entrance test all over Central University, which was established after 2009 amendment. So so through that entrance only, I think many of the people know about this university in the beginning stage. So, so once when I went and joined there, it was like there was no campus per se. It was actually in a rented building where we have all these restaurants, grocery stores in the ground floor, and we have like first floor, second floor, kind of third floor where vice chancellor and all sit. So we have most of the department, and we have science. This is arts, economics, and all other social science departments. And science campus does not have any connection with this department, which is completely like almost 25 kilometers away, with similar kind of a where they actually rented an old hospital building and they are running there. So now the good thing happened is that every campus came together in one campus together in Causerie itself. When I joined, yeah. Sir? Okay, I'll continue. So when I joined there, this rootlessness kind of a thing, and you will keep on hearing on this immature campus. You are there, you should adjust and all those stuff. So then now has changed, of course, because students who have studied from that campus is all over the India doing their research and very well part of the Kerala social political scenario. So now I think it used to be a kind of alien space for specifically for that area, and apart from the all other. Many people thought it's a state university and used to call it state, Kasaragod state central, something like that. But now it has its own space, and fortunately it could actually could be part of all the movements which was happening throughout India, because as a central university it also used to get affected because with most of the things which is happening in other central universities. So yeah, now I think people knows, and because the more batches comes out, students are actually making this place known to other places because of their caliber or talent, whatever.
Great. We'll go on to your presentation now, Professor Micah. You're drawing on a certain strand from your PhD research.
Yes.
Right. We look forward to hearing from you. So the design we'll follow is you can speak for about 15 minutes, and then we'll throw the floor open for questions.
Okay. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you.
So I will be sharing a PPT. I hope it's visible.
Not yet.
Okay. Is it visible, sir? Okay. Yeah. So this is a set of novels. More is there. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my research so that I can just move on directly to the presentation. So few novels are there, more novels are there. Like which have photos are there, more novels is there in the study also. So I'm working on this post-millennial Indian English popular fiction, which actually focusing on the idea of mythology, Indian nation, and the concept of fiction specifically. And I'm tracing these novels and trying to thematically identify different, arrange these novels in different thematic headings. So one of my chapter per se was actually on the concept of other and the concept of conspiracy and how these novels actually portrayed these ideas. So this presentation I will be doing on this is a one specific novel called The Rosabelle Line, which is written by Ashwin Sanghi. But I have taken Ashwin Sanghi's Krishnaki, Keepers of the Kalachakra, along with these novels in the research. So to understand the same theme. So, but because of the lack of time, I'm just taking a very minute aspect of this chapter, which I have discussed broadly. But like by taking one novel and like taking one character at least, just so that I can just make some sense to all of you. So before I'm going to the presentation, the authors I have been studying for this much. Studying is Amish Tripathi, Ashwin Sanghi, Christopher C. Doyle, and I hope many of you know them. So I'm taking like few novels from these writers who came very recently to the mainstream literary scenario. And the text which I am talking in my research is Immortals of Meluha. That is this The Secret of Nagas, The Oath of Vaiputras, known as Triva trilogy. Scion of Ikshvaku and Sita Warrior of Mithila as part of Ramachandra series by the same author, and Ashwin Sanghi's Rosabelle Line, Krishnaki, Keepers of the Kalachakra, and Christopher C. Doyle's Mahabharata Secret, the Mahabharata Quest, the Alexander Secret, the Secret of the Druids. So I will just quickly go through the context of these novels so that you will understand how it came. It came in a time where this, after the liberalization came a scenario, this post-liberalization scenario where a new middle class was emerging. And in this, where a new aspirations, new changes was happening in our society after 1990s. So at this point of time, there was this social media, digital media kind of a boom happened. This internet became so accessible to many of us. And we were introduced to a kind of a world where this visual started to intervening into our life. And at the same time, in 1990s, in India, we have this re-emergence of cultural nationalism, which came by all this Hindutva politics, which was emerging which re-emerged actually during that time through Babri Masjid movement and similar like that. So, this time where this cultural nationalist ideology was actually were projecting a kind of a new idea of new India, where we should be aspiring kind of a superpower position like other first world countries like America, where this is a time where we actually saw the nuclear explosions in India actually experiments India conducted. And at this in the another side, there was this young readers, because we have after 1990s there was this young readers who came up having this English reading group. Young readers started reading English novels, and this very high like very huge number of change happened in the publication industry. And at this this was actually giving a kind of a way, kind of a parallel kind of a parallelly it was going with whatever the post-liberalization was showing, where we have this call center started coming, idea of cities, different metro cities coming. Like Bangalore is something city which actually came to the mainstream scenario during this time. So this IT boom and all. So so the young readers have this motto of like modern, fast-living Indian fiction reading audience. They don't have much time, so they were reading like very small pieces. We have this metro read. The concept of metro read came. So they became readers, audience to this fiction, at the same time consumers also. So I hope all of you are aware about the changes, because all of us are in the same time, we are living in the same situation. So during this time, even though 1990s had a kind of a commercial fiction was there, like English commercial fiction, like Shobhade and all. During this time, especially after 2005, there was this rise in the new genre like commercial fiction, popular fiction, and all of us know what happened after Chetan Bhagat started coming with the novels. So this change had happened. This change was leading to another. It was actually developing into more writers to come in a way that more writers started to come to the popular fiction genre. So, but 2008, from 2008 2007, what had happened is that somehow this romance-based or like this campus-based novels of Chetan Bhagat got a little bit got reduced important, but at the same time there came a new kind of a novels which was giving more importance to the mythology of India. So and at the same time came this new Indian publishing houses called Westland, Alep, and Om. So these three publishing houses has very important position in this popular in regard to the popular fiction in Indian English popular fiction in our society. So they actually started this mythology based novels where they were actually pushing for new writers, and they are actually pushing for establishing this genre of mythology inspired novels, where they were actually looking for draft which was giving more importance to more cultural specific, very Indian story. So it ended up like we have this too many works which is talking about this idea of mythical past, mythologies, where this novels based on Ramayana, Mahabharata, and other Puranas. So okay. I hope all of you got a kind of a context of this novels which was coming after 2008. So I will directly move to the this text or the aspect I am going to talk, where it is narratives of conspiracy and threat and paranoia. So what happened is that I was trying to understand this idea of the other and how this concept of other, the process of othering was happening in post-millennial Indian English popular fiction, which is specifically based on mythology, how these works are actually trying to construct in a way the antagonist we can call. So so what happened is that what I could find is this. So in this process of creating another, I could find a kind of a trope of conspiracy where this other is portrayed as someone who is actually conspiring against the nation, and these novels used it to create the other by portraying particular communities, characters from these communities, and as the conspirators and who wants to do the destruction of the social system, whatever it is. So when I went, so I did not get not much literature which was already written about it. So I have to depend on American literary literature. So where this concept of conspiracy is very much related to American society. So I could see that America could Cold War literature and science fiction, dystopic fiction, which came during that time, has this similar elements, which I could see in the novels which I'm studying. So because the conspiracy narratives revolves around this binary of good and evil, the novels, which Cold War novels, which was having this very similar idea of good and evil, and the good actually good in the sense that superpower America is actually trying to dismantle all the plans. So what happened? So I started tracing this concept, which was there in the American context. So the presence of a horrific other who can be there for a possible extension of the world, which was always there in this all this novels. I think I have changed. Okay. All these novels. So so for example, in the background of the slide, I have this novel. So sorry, before that I will go back again to the Cold War. So in the Cold War literature, we have Soviet Union, we have Soviet Union as the threat, and Soviet Union was represented in different forms of aliens, creatures, military personnel who's coming from other countries to make with the marker of beast and monstrous kind of a, or very negative kind of a portrayal. And this actually changed after the Cold War in the American fiction. So these works already in American context created a kind of a fear and anxiety against anxiety, where these people actually were feeling a kind of a paranoia against this repulsive figure, with which actually showed a kind of a beastly markers. So the people, these beastly markers became a kind of a foreign, mostly became foreign people, animals, and they mostly came from East or other countries outside America. Someone who is actually coming and threatening the civilized West. So for example, so this is the in the background of the slide, there is this novel after the fall of the Soviet Union, where this East European communist bloc after the 1990s changed to something other countries. So during our beginning of the COVID issue, I received this novel, The Eyes of the Darkness. It is in the background. Which was published in 1981 for the first time. So this message which came to the WhatsApp, like it was widely circulated, newspapers, media actually reported it, saying that it actually talked about Wuhan, like long before that in 1980s it said that Wuhan will be doing some kind of a biological war. So I was actually fascinated by this book, because why this is suddenly coming up and everybody was having this uproar about, oh, it's already there. My siblings actually sent it to me, and I checked it. So just after a point, it came to know that so this novel, where the characters in the novel face a mysterious attack of a deadly virus. Later, it was revealed that the virus is part of a biological war. So the first edition, 1981, the novel named alleged virus Gorky 400 because it developed in Russian lab. In 2008 edition, it changed the name into Wuhan 400 as a threat of Russia changed to China. So, and a greater conspiracy behind the virus spread gradually unfold in the novel to produce a binary that Cold War fiction always wanted to create. So after the Cold War era, the change of the threat actually changed from Soviet Union to China and other Middle East countries. So which actually became more prominent after the 9/11 context. So after the 9/11 contest, what had happened is that, like as I have mentioned, Stephen Hanke, he's a writer, he's a critic who has actually extensively studied on that. So in this context, what happened is that he calls this phenomena as reflecting. There was this kind of a profound mood for nostalgia for 60s in American society, where we need a kind of a thread to survive, kind of a nostalgia. We used to have that kind of a powerful position where we used to defeat the threat. So, so what happened is that I quote, unmediated experience, authenticity, and political activism existed in the American culture since 1960s got saturated once the Cold War was gone. So by the last years of the 20th century, they were actually looking for this kind of a nostalgic mood. And the rhetoric of war on terror provided American public sphere with elements of transform and revamp these ideas with a particular speculation on dangers of religious fundamentalist. Thus, the public awareness of the East as the other in 2001 became a local symptom after 9/11. This awareness gradually replaced the threat by the image of Islam. So, after this incident, what happened is that so after this incident, this kind of a change happened in American society and the literature, that too many works started to coming, and in the work, The Paranoid Style in American Politics and Other Essays, Richard J. Hofstadter is one of the seminal important work writer who has worked on the idea of conspiracy and paranoia in American society. So he actually called it as the cultural paranoia started to happen in America. So many works started to come during this time, and like for example, I have given DeLilio's Falling Man 2007, John Updike Terrorist 2006. So a kind of a genre was actually developing called conspiracy fiction. Alexander Pachenko, he's one of the writers who has followed and tried to give a kind of an idea about what conspiracy fiction create. So he says that how this genre actually developed, giving an essential antagonism through the character construction. So this is important because once we, in the next slide, we will be going to the Rosabelle line where we will see a character. So they do not. So he says this character through the process. In the process of character construction, these novels do not leave any room for coincidence and accidents, and explains all fact and event as related to intentional and purposeful activities of evil actors. The narratives develop a realist environment with subtle complexities that lead to the principal contradictions in the plot. And he says that in the realist world of the conspiracy fiction, he says this very obvious explanation must give place to more complicated intellectual procedures aimed at the discourse of concealed truth. Something is there always, which whatever we are seeing is a conspiracy by a group which is not the truth what we are saying. This is the idea which all these novels actually comes up with. So this culture of paranoia, we already have a kind of a minority community in India is already facing too much violence and too much stereotyping through whatever is existing, like Bollywood movie or literature we have, or television shows. So into this context, it was very easy for this kind of a genre to enter, especially after 26/11 Mumbai attack. So 26/11 Mumbai attack actually placed India into the global map of the global war on terror. So, this was very easy for in the Indian context, because in the India already have this kind of a violence which was happening against the minority community, especially Muslim community. So, this novel, The Rosabelle Line, which was actually published in 2007 in America with the pseudonym of Higgins by Ashwin Sanghi, but it did not went well. So in 2008, it actually republished with the name of Rosabelle Line. And the same year it happened, the 26/11 attack, and just before like few weeks before the Rosabelle line was published, and this novel had a massive hit. It was a massive hit because of it had too many instances which is very similar to the attack which had happened. So so even though the novelists say it's very accidental, I don't know. So in India we have a kind of a context after 26/11 where we create because the 9/11 is a became a kind of a scale, kind of a line where everything before that became vanished like that. So Tanya Roy writes, I quote, 9/11 is hypermnemonic, recalling the singularity of the events in New York with such insistence that all other date, time, and places vanished, or the reverse. Each renewed appeal to the memory of the attacks inaugurates a hyperbolic forgetting. It renewed, or people forgot before that what had happened, or it came back to the society with a new meaning after 9/11. So whatever was there in Indian context, which came back after 26/11, because India 26/11 called as 9/11 of India. So it came back in a very different connotations after the 26/11 Mumbai Taj attack. So in this context, when following Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code, where Da Vinci Code already had this swipe the Indian or all other world publishing market with this conspiracies novels. Following Dan Brown in getting the name Indian Dan Brown, Ashwin Sankey comes with the novel The Rosabelle Line. So the Rosabelle Line, I am not going too detail about the novel, but I can just talk about one character called Galib. Galib is the so-called antagonist of the novel, and he's one of the main conspirator who is planning to do an attack on all over the world. So he is the person who is actually starting the novel, where he is actually portrayed. His identity is portrayed as a very person who is actually looking for an option, looking for a chance to attack the world and do some kind of an order. He wants to comes with an order and all. So the author is actually establishing his character, and because in the beginning itself, so that one of the main characteristics of conspiracy novel is that all other characters comes after once the conspiracy is revealed. So conspiracy will be there in front of the author, audience or the reader. Then the entire novels unfold around this conspiracy, where the reader is actually knows what is happening, where all the characters actually follows all the conspiracy which was explained in the novel in the beginning itself. So the character of Ghalib he's actually introduced as a Kashmiri boy who lost his father early, accused of providing monetary help to terrorists, triggering a bomb blast. His father commits suicide in military custody, placing his symbolic tragedy on a much larger, perhaps international canvas. The novel construct is rationale for impending violence. So this is how he is actually portrayed, and he is actually grown up in after 2 chapters, where to become a kind of a very violence obsessed kind of a terrorist. So I will just end this discussion by just talking about how this terrorist is actually portrayed in the novel with the help of the concept of terrorist monster. So the entire novel moves around this Ghalib and his plans and conspiracy, along with other evil powers, to change the world order. So there is a very interesting article by Jasbir K. Puwar and Amit S. Rai. They are actually talking about how the idea of terrorist and the image of the terrorist is considered to be very monstrous. And in this article, they are actually analyze how a terrorist image is always equated with the concept of a monster who is to be destroyed for world justice. So all other countries come together to India, and they try to destroy it for the world justice, to destroy this evil power. And they link this construction, these works, novels actually link this construction to the terrorist monsters, uh, where which is actually a kind of a idea, terrorist is equal to monster, which is actually propagated by the Western discourse of normality. So Galip's character is portrayed as an obsessed fanatic who needs to be corrected to maintain society's balance. This binary of normal and abnormal in the narrative marks the evil monsterity images on the terrorist. Thus, monster, I quote, is a person to be corrected, becomes corrected by the society. Once he gets corrected, he becomes close cousins of ours. The otherness ascribed to the image of terrorists due to the race and religion makes it more complicated, and he becomes, I quote, a monster to be quarantined and an individual to be corrected. Galib thus is ascribed the abnormality by the author, and with few available registers of otherness can successfully develop a monstrous attribute. The idea of evil appears to fit perfectly with this frame of representation. So I'll just conclude by just quickly go through a few kind of a summing up. The entire novel moves around characters who stand parallel to each other, which end up in the binary of pure evil, represented by Christians and Muslim extremist characters, and the epitome of goodness, represented by Hindu religious believers. In the article which we already talked, says that it shows that 9/11 as a kind of a register where there has been emergence of an academic discipline called terrorism studies. This new breed of political academia has, however, ended up normalizing the terrorist, identifying following the terms of Western power blocks. So the knowledge and the form of power that is mobilized to analyze all these terms of like terrorism, which is actually is according to the Western idea of abnormality. So so similarly, the novel also, where the Muslim characters' portrayal very voraciously abides the stereotype notions of the so-called religious terrorist monster. Yeah, this is it, sir. Thank you all.
Going to unmute. Yes, thank you for that presentation, Professor Micah. Your defense is expected quite soon.
Yes, hopefully, sir.
All right. I was just wondering what you'd make of something like the literary genre responding to this genre, right? So just as you have Ashwin Sanghi writing and Devdas Patnaik writing, and all these people writing a very clearly make in India success,
Yes.
right? Fiction that's not really Indian, but has some of its genetic fingerprint in a Xerox shop somewhere, right? You also have the literary genre responding in the form of Vikram Chandra's Sacred Games, and
Yes.
And also maybe Manu Joseph's
Yes.
Miss Laila, Armed and Dangerous,
Yeah.
right? Which take the genre and try and use it, but also try and infect it with a certain kind of critical spirit, etc. Right? What do you make of the conversation between the more overtly literary, adventures into this genre, right, and the more unabashed thriller variants, right?
Yeah.
Like the novel that Ashwin Sanghi wrote.
Yeah. One of the things once I was starting my research is that faced is the same issue of not having much literature on this popular fiction in India, and at the same time this issue of is it readable. So this is one limitation, but it came to it was a limitation when I was starting the research. But it came to be like I could actually explore more into the genre because of this limitation itself.
Oh.
because there is like very little works had come, like recently in 2017 M.R. Dawson Verghese has come up with a book on this genre of fiction. So interestingly, these works, we actually tend to have this, we have this tendency to just set aside this work because of this readability, how good it is, good literature, kind of a bad literature, kind of a binary which is there. So, but at the same time, these works, the amount of the number of the works which is getting published and how this genre is developing, I think enough attention is needed because of the certain stand these works actually is taking. I think from the academics there should be more work which need to contest the stance. So this is what personally I believe. Apart from that, yeah, I have not gone through much about the other literary works which you mentioned. I have mentioned it as a historical review, but not much on the works which has happened. Sita's Ramayana, I don't remember the author's name. She is actually talking the need to in one interview, she's actually talking about the need to talk about the diversity other than this very hegemonic tendency of these works actually showing up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. The other interesting research possibility that seemed to come up, right, since you mentioned terrorism studies emerging as an academic discipline, right, is the notion of the national security state producing its own fiction.
Yeah.
Right. Is that something we could fairly say that Sanghi's thrillers are part of the national security state's dialogue with its willing citizens?
Yes.
Okay. I'm also curious to ask if we can see this kind of dialogue developing across South Asia as the model of the national security state starts to take hold. Because I remember at least one Sri Lankan national security thriller called A Cause Untrue, right, which provides a diagnosis of the separatist movements in the north from the perspective of those who support military action. Right? So can we expect this genre to have a South Asian presence and thus interesting reflections of how the national security state has been grafted onto different countries in the region?
Yeah, I would like to respond to that in a way where in my work, I'm talking about one portion of my work is actually talking about how they create a kind of a scientific imagination in relate to the nation security. So I am talking about how they are actually portraying the idea of weapon and the war. So in that portion, which I'm talking about how they are actually using the idea of mythological weapons, the existence of these mythological weapons, where they are actually is connecting to the concept of nuclear weapons, where and all these are connected to this superpower exceptional country, to the other country. Yeah. So I don't know if what I said is the same like Saw said, but there are this kind of a I think there are writings where I am if I am not wrong, it's Banu Subramaniam. He's talking about where he's actually talking about how we Indians had after the independence, especially after 1990s, a kind of a inferiority, tackling the idea of tackling the inferiority mind of Indians by doing all this nuclear explosion and all this. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if I answered it.
Ha, ha, ha. Let's return to the point you were making in response to my first question, right? Would you say a novel like The Rosabal Line is readable? What would you personally say in response to that question?
When I started reading, personally, I should say it is very easy readable, the language and all. Still, there are mistakes. Like, I don't know if I'm saying it correct. Okay, so once I started, I think for a person who is reading this popular fiction, they may not find it that bad at all. But once you start studying it, and if you are aware about this context and all, it's very difficult to read. Apart from that, because I know my friends itself was suggesting me this book to read because it's very fascinating. And one important thing is that it is actually circulating through translations. So it is actually in every nook and corner of the country in different languages also. So it is readable personally for a pleasure reading. For personally, I did not find it. I don't know if this baggage of all this context, I know, but if I don't have that kind of idea, I think it might, if like it was in like 20 years before, I would have, yeah, I would have enjoyed.
Okay. So I guess your research in that sense is you talking to a much younger version of yourself then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just check if there are questions from our audience. Okay, many compliments on your presentation, but
Thank you.
We don't seem to have questions, right? But thank you, Professor Micah. That was a very a very interesting presentation. So many different possibilities and so many different questions come out of just thinking about, how the thriller model seems to answer certain aspirations while also connecting to certain political agendas. Right? We hope to hear more about this. It's a genre that is not going away. So I think you'll find that
there are plans for certain writers to write till 2030.
I'm only surprised that it hasn't made it to television yet, at which point it's reached.
Going to recent one novel by Amish. I think they have going to make a movie. Yeah.
So I think it's a genre that's here to stay.
It's going to be in the movies, in the coming. Yeah.
Good. It's a specialization that will need more attention, as you very rightly pointed out. Thank you very much. Welcome to the department. We look forward to more such conversations in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.